Let's see here. Well, my computer's definitely doing something. Yeah, we're live. Looks like it's working.
Okay.
I will just ask Jessica if she can check it all works.
So it's going to FaceSpace and to the
YouTubes. The YouTubes. Can you check audio on Facebook and YouTube? Okay. Hello, Nathan.
Hi, Michael.
How are you?
I'm locked inside, but otherwise fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is part of the reason for this live stream thing, experiment of mine is we're all stuck indoors now. How you holding up with isolation?
Well, truth be told, I feel like it's been kind of a struggle. Just because I was joking about this with someone the other day where or maybe it was someone posted something. It's like, I've always told myself that I've always wanted to clean my entire apartment, but I've just never had the time. And this week has proven to me that time was not the issue.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
same here.
To segue from that, the feeling like we've all, I know at some point been like, oh, I wish I could just have nothing to do so I could just get all my practicing done.
Yeah.
But it turns out that's not really what we want. What we want is the freedom to do whatever we want. Which right now, not having the freedom to go outside.
Right. Or,
so,
or it's like, well, if I had lots of free time, I could just practice. But then, like, when you have free time, what do? End up doing some Brower challenge and not practicing your actual rep.
Right, yeah. And I find for me, I'm definitely a deadline-motivated person.
Yeah.
So suddenly not having any performance deadlines in the near future, with the exception of this, has definitely sort of made it difficult to keep on that routine. So even though I'm still playing the guitar, but I'm messing around more with like composing and going through my old scores and editing them and stuff. So.
But hey, some of us need those scores edited.
That's true.
Such as the people you wrote sonatas for.
You mean the sonata that I finished a year ago and never edited?
Well, we talked over it, but yeah. Anyways, maybe we should.
I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, it's been like a year, and I still haven't given him the final track.
It's okay. I haven't totally performed the entire thing yet, so snippets. Yeah. Well, we'll get there. Maybe we should introduce you and what this is, so people aren't totally confused.
Yes.
So as you know, but just for our listeners, I wanted to start some kind of live stream thing, and due to the fact that many of us have messy desks, I thought we could call it the Messy Desk Concert and Conversation Series. I mean, I'm not NPR, but still, I can try. And I asked you on, and you are Nathan Bredeson. But do you want to tell everyone a little bit about how you came to be here, what you're all about?
Sure.
I mean, you're a guitarist. I think.
Yes. Well, so Michael and I have known each other 5 years now.
I think something like that.
Just about.
Yeah.
We're coming up on 5 years. We met at the 2015 Montreal guitar competition.
Mm-hmm.
And went on a bender after neither of us passed into the finals.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. I mean, that's the nice thing about not passing to the finals is you get to hang out and meet people, right? So.
Yeah.
I mean, I do that either way, but that's me.
Yeah. Well, I think definitely several of the most important, and not just professional relationships, but also personal relationships have come from just hanging out with people at these things, which wouldn't happen if you were, holed up in the practice room the whole time, not interacting with people.
Yeah, for sure.
But what else is there to say about me? I live in Ottawa, Ontario. Yeah, well,
Sorry. Go
you
ahead.
good?
Yeah, I
I have an ensemble called the Ottawa Guitar Trio, which will hopefully be on a later episode of this series.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, I also do some composing. Michael plays one of my pieces.
Yep. You are also a great arranger.
Yes, and I will be playing one of those today as well.
Yes. Yeah, so before we get to the music, just really quickly, you have, I mean, not that degrees are actually all that important really, but you've done your master's and your bachelor's in guitar performance. And who did you study with, just for the guitarists in the audience, so they can all be,
Yes.
you know.
So I did my undergraduate at the University of Ottawa with Dennis Donagany from the Canadian Guitar Quartet, and I studied composition as well with John Armstrong and Frederick Lacroix.
Yeah.
And then I did my master's at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee with Renee Izquierdo.
Shout out to Renee.
Shout out to Renee. And I also did my Suzuki guitar teacher training with Andrea Cannon in Texas.
Nice. Cool. So you have a real pedigree,
Some would say.
as it were. Okay, well, because of, technical challenges and various things, you are going to play something live a little bit later, but first we are just going to play one of your recordings and let the audience listen to it and enjoy it. So it's the preludes from the Martin pieces, right? Do you want to say a bit about it, or why you play it, or why you chose it?
Yeah, so this is what probably, in my opinion, one of the most tragically underrepresented pieces in our repertoire. It's Frank Martin's 4 short pieces. Frank Martin is a Swiss, or was a Swiss composer, and this piece has a bit of a history for the guitar. Martin wrote the pieces and dedicated them to Andre Segovia, and Segovia never performed them. In fact, he never even acknowledged that he received them.
Oh, really?
And
That's
there's
brutal.
even an anecdote. When I was doing research on this piece, I found a few sources saying that Martin reported that one day they were both living, I think, in Geneva at the time, and Martin was walking down the street and he saw Segovia and sort of like waved at him, and Segovia just turned around and
Because he's like,
walked the other way without even.
oh damn, I haven't played your
noticing
piece.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine
That's pretty brutal.
how awkward that would have been for both of them. But so then the piece was not premiered for a few years later. I think it was written in 1932, and I don't think the premiere happened until 1936 or so.
Okay. It's not that long, I mean.
Which isn't that long, but considering that he wanted it to be played, immediately, there's a bit of a delay, and I can't remember the name of who premiered it, but I remember when you look at the manuscript for this piece, at the bottom there are notes that Martin wrote sort of as questions to the performer, which was, I think, the copy that he sent to the person who eventually premiered it. And one of the things it says is like, it's all in French, but it's like, possibly impossible to play, question mark.
They should put that after every guitar piece.
Yeah. So then, because Martin was not a guitarist,
Yeah.
so he wasn't sure. But then, in one of the correspondences that survived with this guitarist, the guitarist is like, "No, this is all doable. It's fine. Like, you're actually very good at writing for guitar."
Yeah. So
Which unfortunately, Martin never wrote another piece for solo guitar. He wrote one piece for something like 3 electric guitars and voice and saxophone, like some really weird.
He also wrote this piece for flute and or piccolo and voice and guitar, which my friend Leo Zale played at Maastricht recently. I recorded his performance of it actually, but it's like pretty obscure. And I mean, the guitar part's not that substantial, but it's really nice chamber music.
Yeah, and I think in general he's more known for the larger things. Like he did, I think, oratorios
Yeah.
and things like that later on. He has one called Golgotha, which I think is considered one of his magnum opuses, and another one called La Fin Herbe, which is once again like a large production thing.
Yeah.
But so this piece wasn't actually recorded until Julian Bream's 20th Century Guitar CD.
Which is kind of historic CD.
Yeah, and that, was a good 30 years after the piece was written.
Yeah.
So I could imagine, from Martin's point of view, him being like, oh, well, I guess there's not much of a market for this rep, so I guess I won't focus on doing it again, which is too bad.
Yeah, it's really nice, the piece.
Yeah. Now, the version that Bream plays is the Universal Edition's score,
Yeah.
which has some changes that I don't know where they came from.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who at Universal Editions made those changes or who they referred to do the editing, but some of them are kind of strange, like changing. Some of them make a lot of sense. Like in the third movement, there are some parts that, from the way that Martin wrote them, you can't really play it, but you can sort of work out ways of making it sound closer than what the Universal Edition changes.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of like, Martin wants you to bar chord on 12th fret, which can't really do.
Screw that, yeah.
Yeah, but then in the fourth movement, there are some notes that are like very different.
Right.
And it's like, it's all playable in the manuscript, so I'm not sure why. So I'm pretty sure most of what I do in my recordings, which I have all 4 of the movements up on YouTube, are mostly from the manuscript.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 1 or 2 things taken from the Universal Edition.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, Martin basically figured out the guitar in one piece.
Yeah, that's pretty exceptional. I mean, like...
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's weird, too, because it wasn't played for years, and then it wasn't recorded for like 20 years or 30 years after its writing, and now so many people play it. It's really common. Like...
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, it's not as common as I'd like, but it's getting there.
But I do feel like it's more common in... Well, maybe there's just more players here, but I've heard a lot of people in Europe play it. Yeah, a lot of my colleagues in Maastricht have played it, like at least 2 or 3 of them already. So,
okay, good.
In the 2 years I've been here, so, but it might be that it's just popular in our class or something.
It could be.
Yeah.
I guess one more cool thing about this piece that I've mentioned is that it really is a missed opportunity, because it is really the earliest piece that we have, or that we know of, that's written in sort of the modern style. So Martin starts implementing some elements of Schoenberg's 12-tone system. There are tone rows in the final movement. And the first movement, although it doesn't use tone rows, it uses chromatic saturation.
Yeah.
Very cute.
Sorry.
Chromatic saturation in the first theme, where he's not specifically using a tone row, but he makes sure that he touches on every single chromatic tone. And I'm pretty sure the very last note, or one of the few last notes of the piece, is like the final one. So he really sort of draws it out.
Cool.
And then he's sort of moving between these different notes and sort of using them as temporary tonal centers.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, it's like, sometimes it's dissonant and it's a little bit out there, but it's still very grounded sounding, because he's using these sort of moving tonal centers to keep you moored in any one place.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting.
Yeah, it sounds very modern, but it also does not sound, I don't know, chaotic or hard to... Actually, I think it's quite listenable, but that's,
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a classical musician, so...
Our ears have been...
conditioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the themes are quite... like, even after the first few times I listened to it, that I sort of had the themes in my head already, and that's not always the case with this kind of music, so...
Yeah, and this sort of touches on... I was watching a video by, I think it's called 8-Bit Music Theory,
Yeah.
who's a YouTube channel that analyzes video game music. And one thing he was talking about was that a lot of these iconic themes from games use intervals as a way to keep something recognizable, often starting a theme with some sort of interval, or using a prevalence of a specific interval to keep sort of a overall uniformity to the sound. And I find that Martin uses this very well, especially in the first movement.
Mm-hmm.
This
which we're going to listen
starting with
to.
that fifth
Yeah.
bum is really sort of unifying for the whole piece, and it keeps coming back. And I find using things like that, even though it's sometimes dissonant, it helps keep the listener,
Mm-hmm.
gives them something to hang on to.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, like, play Ocarina of Time, and like every song there is based on the intervals. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Okay, we're gonna listen to a recording that Julian Bertino made for you, right?
Yeah.
At Ottawa U. It's Taberry Hall, right? The same hall I played in when I was there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Alrighty, let's see if my technology will cooperate. Let's see. Should work. Sorry, I just realized I have to change one setting because I'm still learning how to do this, everybody. One moment. How do I hide this video capture? There we go. Okay. Now we should be good. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay. Oh, it's still showing. Oh, God. Sorry. I think it's still showing your you instead of the. I'm not sure if it's showing the video. Okay. Let's hope.
Well, it's showing the video on my screen.
That's because I'm sharing with you. Okay, I did it wrong. Sorry, everybody. One moment. I need to actually change the window capture so that it's the Frank Martin. There we go. Okay. Now it should work. Okay, from the top, Frank Martin Prelude. Nice.
That
Okay.
final bit where there's the pedal moving between the sixth string and the first string
Yeah.
is fiendishly difficult, but it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Especially like if you want it to sort of accelerate all the way to the end, you have to be really warmed up. But I was in good shape recording that video because it was just like a week or two after I recorded my CD,
Yeah.
which I will hopefully have for sale online soon.
I hope so.
I hope so.
It's there we go. Oh, I had the wrong window. There we go. Okay. See, I'm still learning how all this works. People just got to see my Zoom sign-in screen for like a couple seconds there. So you have the Martin on your CD, right? What else is on the CD?
I have the Jacquet 2 suite for guitar,
Canadian.
which is good old CanCon. I have my own arrangement of the Chopin Nocturne, Opus 55, number 1,
Nice.
which is a good one. I have Dominicone's variations on an Anatolian folk song,
Mm-hmm.
Merritt's Hungarian Fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
Prelude, Fugue, and Allegro,
Bach. Yeah.
which is Bach for those who don't know. And what am I missing? Patrick Rude in Cielo Loche as
Yeah.
the closer.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Basically everything I played during my master's degree.
Nice. Well, we'll get the technology set up better for the second recording here, second performance. But sounds great. So that CD's not online yet, but you have physical copies, and you're going to put it online soon.
I do. Yeah, I'm trying to get it for sale online so that people don't have to touch things.
Yes, that's the name of the game right now. Don't touch stuff. Everyone who's watching, stop touching things.
Yeah, don't touch your face.
Don't touch your face. Okay. Anyways, so one question I have, which I know it sounds like a weird question, but I actually think it's an interesting one, and I want to ask everybody who comes on this show at this. But how do you define classical guitar? Like, how do you define classical guitar?
As opposed to
Anything else? I mean,
as opposed to other genres of guitar.
Sure, or just in general, how would you explain what classical guitar is? Like, I think it's actually not as clear of a category as we might think it is. You know.
Okay, well, I guess the biggest or the closest thing that would probably need the most distinction to draw the lines between would be like fingerstyle guitar.
Yeah.
So.
Or flamenco. I mean.
Or yeah, I guess, or flamenco. So, I guess one thing would be that, for the most part, although I'm probably going to tick off a lot of people.
That's what this is all about. Just make them angry. We want to make sure by the end of the stream, Nathan's going to be canceled. Cancel Nathan.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, it's saying controversial things gets you more views, right? So,
Right. Exactly. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, being canceled is good for your career. So, you know.
Yeah. So I think one thing is classical guitar is predominantly playing pre-composed music.
Yes, I would agree.
I know that there are some people who are trying to push for more improvisation again in classical music, and even just things like aleatoric music.
Yeah, but
aleatoric music is to an extent premeditated.
It's pre-composed, and then they give you parameters within which you can improvise. But that's like kind of a fringe case. I mean, some people, yeah. If Francisco, if you're watching, he'll be like, "But we can improvise." Yeah, there are people who are doing it or who want to do it.
Mm-hmm. But
you're right. I think it is predominantly pre-composed.
Yeah. So that would be one thing. And once again, I'm going to take off a bunch of modern composers saying this, when I think of classical music, I mostly think of standard notation, although I know that there are lots of people experimenting with graphic scores.
Jason Noble just left the chat.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Jason Noble's piece is I'm just afraid that if I light too many candles while the score is open, I might summon a demon.
Yeah, we're talking about Shadow Prism. Yes. Yeah.
Which, if you haven't looked at the score, there's like pentagrams all over the place.
It's amazing. Yeah.
But so that would just draw the distinction, mostly between that and fingerstyle guitar, which primarily uses tablature.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to knock tablature because I think it has its time and place, but I do think that if you're playing classical guitar, there is sort of that desire for the greater depth of understanding that standard notation
Can offer,
provides in terms of harmonic relationships, motivic development.
Right.
So things like that. I feel like classical guitar is sort of about having that high level of refinedness to the playing.
Yeah. But I mean,
as opposed to
yeah,
some other genres where it's more about the oh, and now I'm probably going to start contradicting myself.
That's good also. Slavoj Žižek entered the chat.
In some genres, like the live performance is really important, but not necessarily like the perfection of the live performance, but just like being in the moment and like experiencing something with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that every genre of music is that way, but something about like having that classical association to it is the idea of like going for that like top shelf high level performance, not necessarily just like jamming with the dudes type thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
So 3 elements, I guess, like notation, pre-composed music, usually not composed by the player. Which is
interesting because all of the surviving rep we have from the classical period is written by
guitarists. Yeah, and the 9th century. But I mean, that's kind of true for most instruments until the 20th century, isn't it? Oh no, not entirely. Not at all. Yeah.
Well, yeah, not necessarily, but guitar's always kind of been a little bit in a bubble from everything else.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we've kind of emerged from the bubble a little bit in the 20th century, I think.
Well, and I think, as much as we like to knock Segovia, one thing that he was really good about, and also Bream, was approaching non-guitarist composers.
Yeah. I mean,
to get them to write.
You can criticize both of them all day for other things, but you can't criticize the contribution they made it to our instrument getting outside of just the guitar world. Although we're still in many ways we're still off in our own corner, So.
But we're trying.
We're trying. Yeah, we're trying.
We're trying.
Just to pivot a bit, how would you say that, because you perform quite a bit? Well, okay. First of all, you have some like chamber project, right, with the trio. Do you have any other chamber projects?
At the moment, no.
Okay.
Just the trio.
And you perform a lot with them, but you also perform solo. So how do you prepare for a performance, whether it's chamber or solo? What's your go-to method?
You have any tips?
Well, I don't know.
So what do I do? I play slow a lot.
Yeah.
But when I say I play slow, I talk about like bullet time.
Yeah.
Bullet time slow. So I like to play so slowly that there's almost a complete elimination of reflexive motion. So even for something like, I've got my guitar right here. So let's say if I'm playing, I don't know, a little bit of like the allegro. So landing those 2 notes.
Yeah.
Instead of just shooting the fingers out, I want to think about, can I control the movement of the the movement of the fingers
Yeah.
the whole time. And that was something that I sort of stole from, I think it was a Sergio Assad masterclass.
Yeah.
With my trio partner Alex Bougie was playing in it, and he was having him do just those contrary motion exercises from pumping nylon.
Yeah. You realize you're
And
flipping off all of YouTube right now.
That's how you get the content, or the followers. So Alex was going through it, and he was like, no, do it slower. Like, okay, I'll do it slower. No, do it slower. And then eventually, well, how slowly do you want me to do it? He's like, it took him like 10 seconds to move the fingers all the way.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of stuff like that. When I'm doing the trio stuff, I like, because we do a lot of like film music and a lot of video game music, so I'll like boot up the video on YouTube of whatever movie score we're working on and play it along with the recording.
Cool.
Just so that I'm sort of getting the full sonic experience.
Yeah.
And especially with chamber music, sometimes it can be kind of strange, like practicing 1/2 of or 1/3 of a piece.
Yeah, for sure.
And honestly, and this is maybe not a good thing, but I don't do as many run-throughs as I think some people do.
Yeah.
I feel like most of the time, like 90% of the time, I'm doing spot checking of specific parts.
Yeah, I find the same thing, although, I don't know, I do find something really important about running things, because I have the feeling for myself that, like, no matter how much, well, not no matter how much, but even if I do a lot of slow practice, a lot of spot checking, a lot of, like, really detailed work, it's just a different headspace and mentality when I'm playing for people. So for me, I feel like I need to play for an audience 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 times with a piece, depending how challenging it is for me, before I feel confident going into a stage situation,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But
yeah, I think I probably feel that way too. But I think part of it is, at some point I sort of asked myself, like, what is the point of the full run-through? And I think I realized that some of the things that I was trying to mitigate with the full run-through are going to happen no matter what. And
yeah.
As you say, it's more an aspect of learning how to roll with the punches in a live performance.
Yep.
So you're saying, like, it takes a few live performances to feel comfortable, and I agree. And I think a large part of that is that the more times you do it, you're not necessarily messing up less, although you probably are, but you're also not letting those mistakes bother you. And I think since the time that I was a student, my biggest improvement has probably been the ability to make a mistake and just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a master's right now, but I already have one master's, and I noticed a big difference between the first and the second master's in my mentality, because I'm doing more performance professional work now, and I did between a little bit too, and so yeah, it's not that I don't care about improving my ability to execute things. I think I'm always improving as a performer, as a musician, every performance, every month as I practice, as I learn more things, which I hope continues forever. But also I feel like my ability to not care about things that haven't been fixed yet, or that may never be fixed, or that are inevitable, and I don't know.
Yeah, so I feel like there are always going to be parts that are a little dodgy, and maybe if you're not having a good day, it's just not going to happen. So it's like, at what point do you just accept that?
Yeah.
And try to still make a good performance, despite that one thing.
Yes.
And I think, when you play too much on the competition circuit, and when you play too much for other guitarists, I think we get locked in that headspace of, like, you need to woodshed those two measures until
it's completely perfect. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
when you're playing for the other 99% of the public that actually make up most of who's going to pay money to go to a concert, they don't.
Well, and even beyond that, when you play for other guitarists outside of a competition setting, they don't care. Like, you know, when I go to a concert at a festival, or just a guitar concert, I'm not really that interested in approaching it like I would if I was a jury member at a competition. You know, like I'm yeah. Anyways, I could talk all day about how little people should care about what judges and other guitarists think. But yeah, I mean, of course you have to care about it when you're actually competing. But anyways, yeah. Cool. So, would you say you get more inspiration from music or from other things, like, I don't know, art or film or the outdoors, or yeah, like what drives you to keep creating music?
It's probably music is the main drive. I've been on a bit of a Russian composer binge.
Since you wrote your 21-minute homage to Shostakovich?
Yeah, but like, you know, I've been spending the time locked in to catch up on some listening that I probably should have done as a student. So, like going through the Stravinsky ballets, going through like Mussorgsky stuff, and I find usually, like, I posted something on Facebook, it's like, oh, this is one of those recordings where you listen to it and you have to immediately listen to it again because it's just that good.
Yeah, the Evgeny Kissin one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
which
good.
Is like an insane
performance. Yeah, I listened to it right after you posted it, and it was amazing.
Like the whole Gates of Kiev part.
Yeah.
Is just like perfection, and it's like those little moments, like that little. I mean, the whole thing's great, but like this little 30-40 second bit of the Gates of Kiev where he brings in the main theme again, and they're over like the pedal point. You know, like I could listen to that like 100 times in a row.
Yeah, yeah, for
and
sure.
Those are the parts that I feel like inspire me to be creative.
Yeah, and to try to go beyond what you can do.
Yeah, and then trying to think of other points. Well, like that part in the third Shostakovich string quartet where in the final movement where he brings in the Passacaglia theme again.
Which quartet, sorry? Oh yeah. Yeah.
That part?
Yes.
When he brings it in the final movement and like the two violins are just like playing crazy stuff on top of it, and then it's like cantus firmus texture in the bottom, with the cello and the viola playing it in canon. It's like those are the parts where you listen to like, oh man, like that makes me want to write something just as powerful as that. Which is why I wrote the second movement to your sonata.
Yeah. No, the movement's pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to recording it soon. Yeah. And it has a bunch of those moments, which I like. Yeah. Something that I love about the sonata is that I feel like even though it's really long, because I think we both know it's long, like it has enough of those moments, and not always put next to each other, but evenly spaced, that I think it really holds up well. And like when we did the tour, like people. Yeah, that movement, nobody seemed to think it. No, I didn't get the feeling that people lost interest, because, you know, when you play a long piece, you can often tell as a performer when people are losing interest.
Right, yeah.
And I didn't feel that, so that's awesome.
It was the same thing when one of my group class students came to our Ottawa performance, and I remember his dad was like, oh man, he was like sucked in the whole time during your piece.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign.
And I only played 2 movements, but that amounted to like 16 minutes of music or something. So for a kid to be able to just like sit through that is kind of impressive, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To give you a guitar example of a piece that like really inspired me, Stefan Rack's Elegy. If you haven't listened to it,
I actually have listened to almost none of his music, which is terrible. But yeah,
a lot of it is like borderline impossible stuff that frightens me, but that piece is actually pretty interesting, and just it's an homage to Sibelius.
Okay.
And the once again, like it has this culminating part at the end where he's mixing like arpeggios with hammer-ons and pull-offs, and he has this theme that's like interwoven into it. It's just one of those like
that's where that
sublime
that's where that impossible section in the elegy that you wrote came from.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Except if you can believe it, it's probably even harder than that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there was that time during the summer before the tour when I messaged you and I was like, I think I might injure myself. We may have to cut this section from the second movement.
Which I'm glad that you did not injure yourself.
No, I mean, actually, and it sounds bad, but I just had to like improve my stretch, which as a 6'8" guy with giant hands, it's kind of sad, but sometimes you get a piece where you have to improve some like physical thing that will hurt you if you do it improperly, but with the right kind of practice and the right management of how much you do it and stuff, you can overcome it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, that like a specific piece, like things can inspire you to create, but things can inspire you to play and get better.
Yes, yeah.
And I feel like one piece in particular recently that I worked on that did that was Alex Bougie's arrangement of the Harry Potter music that my trio's been working on.
Mm-hmm.
There are some like really shreddy parts, like
the violins,
playing scales at 160 and stuff that have really pushed me to work out some bits of my technique that were not up to snuff to make the piece really work.
Nice.
So I feel like pieces can inspire you to get better just to make them happen.
For sure. One thing, when I asked Jessica what questions I should ask, she was saying that I should ask about Buddy, and you told me the stories, but has he stopped eating underwear?
Well, I'd have to call my parents and ask, because he's staying with them while I'm in quarantine.
By the way, just so everyone knows, Buddy's your dog, not
Buddy's my roommate. So I have a dog that sometimes appears on my Facebook feed named Buddy. And Buddy is like one of those pigs that searches for truffles. Except instead of truffles, it is used underpants.
Yeah, and then eats them. I lost a pair to him when I came there for my concert in Ottawa.
Well, that's a rite of passage of staying at my place.
Right.
If you stay with me, you're going to lose a pair of underpants.
To Buddy, yeah.
He's quite thorough.
Yeah. I mean, it was worth it for coming and playing the concert and hanging out, but man. Okay. What's the funniest thing you've ever done on stage performing? Funniest / most unfortunate, and funny in retrospect, or in a master class.
Okay, let me think.
It's okay if you can't think of one, but or just like something ridiculous that happened. That's.
I'm going to start telling one, and I'll probably think of another one as I talk. But so the Ottawa Guitar Trio did this series of Christmas specials back in December.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we decided on was that we were going... So normally we coordinate our outfits, like down to the socks.
Yeah.
We have a shirt guy, Mario Uomo.
You have a shirt guy? Your trio
We have a shirt guy.
Oh my gosh. That's
and
amazing.
We text him in advance. We're like, we're thinking purple this time. And then we come in and he's like, oh, I got these ones for you guys. These ones would go well together.
That's amazing. Oh man.
So we when we did our recordings, well, okay, so how do I start? So normally we coordinate our outfits. So for the Christmas specials, we decided we're going to do ugly Christmas sweaters, and we're not going to match.
Oh yeah, they're in that video of yours on YouTube of the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you might notice that 2 of the sweaters match in that video, and there's a story to that.
But they're not supposed to match. So who's the odd one out? Is it Alex?
Alex is the odd one out, but it's actually not his fault.
Poor Alex.
It's my fault.
Why is it your fault?
So, well, long story. So in November, we went to Toronto to record videos with Drew Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
which you can find on the Ottawa Guitar Trio YouTube page. We did Star Wars,
Shameless
Ravel,
self-plug.
and Hindemith. Now that I'm done plugging things. So we went to Toronto, and I don't know why, but for some reason I have this reputation for being responsible. And all I've done in the past year is just like destroy that reputation.
Well, you were quite responsible when we had our tour. Like,
Right, but remember how like I think Emma Rush made some comment about how I'm responsible when
yeah, she kept relying on you for details instead of me, and I was like, this is
Yeah.
well, it's fair, but
yeah. So ever since then, I feel like I've just completely ruined that because I keep forgetting things. But so with the trio, we drive to Toronto. We're staying with our friend Daniel Ranjitan, and we get there, and Daniel hops in the car because he's going to show us where to park. He's like, "Oh, Alex is driving. I thought Nathan would have driven because he's the responsible one." so then we park, and I'm unloading my suitcase, and I'm like, I left my shirt in Ottawa, like our coordinated shirt. So I can't just go buy any shirt. So that's strike one against me. So then I have to go to Winners to find a shirt that will fit the color scheme of the rest of us, because we had white backgrounds with patterns, and every pattern had a little bit of red in it.
okay, that's
luckily
kind
I
of
find-
specific.
Very specific, and I lucked out and I found something in Paisley that more or less fit.
Nice.
And then as we're there, Frank is like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do ugly Christmas sweaters for our concerts in a couple weeks. I guess I'll buy my sweater now." So he grabs some random Christmas sweater off the rack, and it's good. We do the videos. A couple weeks later, I go out shopping to buy my Christmas sweater, and I'm like, "Oh well, Frank found a good one at Winners. I guess I'll go to Winners too."
And you pick the
I go
same
and
one?
I grab the first sweater that I see, and I leave. And then at our next trio rehearsal, I'm like, "Hey guys, look at the sweater I got." And Frank said, "What? That's my sweater." And the concert was like the next day, so there was nothing.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. You're supposed to get a not matching sweater, and you somehow accidentally got a matching one.
At two different stores in two different cities.
Very well. This is the problem with North American capitalism. You just like end up buying the same thing as everybody
It's
else.
all uniform.
Yeah, it's like you feel so unique having your rose gold iPhone, but it's like no.
No, you're not special. Well, you're special just like everyone else.
Yeah, everybody's special.
Yeah. So the only good news was that because it was Frank and me that had them, it kind of worked because we had like radial symmetry.
Yeah, because Alex is in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus-
But Alex was sure to rub my face in it at every concert.
Yeah, of course.
And since then, I'm no longer considered the responsible one.
You've lost your responsible status.
Yeah, I feel like Alex has taken the go.
Yeah. Well, good for Alex. I mean, he had to grow up someday, so.
Yeah.
Shout out to Alex. Okay, so we're going to play a little game. Nathan, you ready?
Oh,
To give everyone
I'm
a-
dreading this part.
To give everyone a break. So, wait, I should pull out a pen so I can keep score, because, like, apparently I don't have a computer in front of me. I should use a pen. Okay, so before you play some more music, which is, yeah, probably part of the reason you're here, but we're going to play a little classical guitar repertoire listening test. Here is the part of the show where normally we would play the repertoire guessing game, where I embarrass the guest by playing clips from guitar recordings and having them guess the piece, composer, and player, and we talk about the music. Unfortunately, YouTube and/or Naxos, the label where many of the recordings come from, automatically block my videos when I do this due to copyright claims. Even though I know that short clips of copyrighted content are allowed under fair use when they are being used for commentary and/or education. Due to this delightful roadblock from our benevolent YouTube overlords, we'll be skipping this section, but if you'd like, you can check out the full stream with the repertoire guessing game on Facebook through the link below in the description box. Now, back to our fascinating guest. Okay, so you're gonna play for us now, live on camera,
Yes.
and we're gonna hope that the audio holds up.
Okay.
So what are you gonna play, Nathan?
So this is an arrangement of mine of a Scottish tune called Hector the Hero.
I played this
And
one on tour, actually.
yes, yes, you have. And it will soon be available to purchase on my website, nathanbredeson.ca, as soon as I finish editing in the fingerlings.
Which is one of your projects for being stuck at home during this coronavirus outbreak.
Yes, I've been trying to catch up on the backlog of edits for things. So this piece has sort of several layers of meaning to me. On one level, it's actually a piece about an ancestor of mine. So my mother was born in Scotland. She's Clan MacDonald. And Hector the Hero was written in memory of Sir Hector MacDonald, who was a soldier during the British wars in Sudan. So this would have been late 1800s or early 1900s. It would have been pre-Boer War, so I guess like late 1800s. And Hector MacDonald was, I believe, a general who rose from poverty to being one of the top generals in that armed engagement. And then after the war, he was, I think, sent off to somewhere like Tasmania, like one of those very far away parts of the empire to sort of govern a little chunk. He was accused of homosexuality and eventually killed himself over those allegations. And we don't really know if they were true or not, but we do know that he was not well liked in high society because of his humble origins.
Right. And those accusations
Scotland,
those accusations would only make it worse too.
Yeah.
At that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Scotland, if you go there, which my mother went last fall, there's actually a monument in his hometown built to commemorate him. And after he passed away, his friend James Scott Skinner, who is a very famous like fiddler, I believe, from the time, wrote this tune in memory of him.
Hector the Hero.
Yeah, so that's one level, and Hector would be like my great uncle, maybe one or two more greats to it.
Mm-hmm.
So like actual, there's a cat behind you.
Loki.
And then the second level of meaning is I wrote this piece a few days after I found out that a friend of mine had killed himself. And this was sort of
that's rough.
In general, not a very good summer for people that were my friends. I lost 3 people, 2 to suicide, 1 to disease. So I was sort of, he was someone who had sort of reintroduced me to a lot of like Celtic music, and it was sort of through playing music with him that I found this tune, and then my mom was like, oh yeah, that tune has like a connection to our own family. So I wrote the piece a few days after I found out that he killed himself, and it was sort of a very cathartic thing for me. So
cool. It's a great arrangement too. I really love playing it.
And I feel like I do the piece justice with the arrangement. The first statement is meant to emulate the bagpipes, so there's a drone just in the low string, and then trying to evoke the bagpipe ornaments, which are quite tight, as opposed to more lyrical. They're very quick, and then sort of reharmonizing it through the other repetitions.
Cool.
So
Nice. All right. Well, let's hope that the streaming quality holds up.
all right.
I'm gonna hide my my window here so that people just see you.
I think it'll take these off.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
If you need me, just
Okay. Yeah, you can still see me, I guess. Oh yeah, and I know we called this the Messy Desk concert series, so maybe you also need to show people the Messy Desk. I don't know. Nice. Very cool.
So that's the piece.
Awesome.
I know that you play the harmonics at the end differently than I do, but we can still be friends.
Even though I play them differently than the composer, yeah. It's been a while since I played it. I want to pick it up again.
Yeah. I have to comb through the score because I feel like over the years of playing it, I've been like switching notes around.
Yeah.
I don't know if what I play is actually what's on the page anymore. But
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it sounds great. I think that the audio quality sort of held up, but I think maybe your guitar's so powerful that the mic started doing some weird things, but it's okay.
It started clipping. It's sort of
yeah.
We're doing the best we can.
We're doing the best we can with the situation, like everybody, I think. Yeah, but it sounds great, man.
The audio is a metaphor for society.
Yes. The audio is
overwhelmed with doing the best we can.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering about practicing. Like, how do you like to practice, or what do you find is the most useful way to practice? Do you have tips for people besides the slow thing?
Yeah. So I find when I feel like I'm making the most progress, I practice some very basic technical things at the beginning of each session to sort of reinforce good habits. Especially for me, I'm a player who the right hand can feel very tense if I'm sort of not doing things correctly. So I probably spend about 20 to 30 minutes doing some really basic open string exercises.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing that would surprise anyone. It's just things like just playing open strings. I mean, can I relax my hand completely in between? And like, can I play from off of the string, so without pre-planting, and still get the tone I want, and then relax the hand completely afterwards. So I do a lot of stuff like that, and then I do that, but with like speed bursts.
Yeah, I think on the tour I was like not surprised, but like impressed at how many little very basic exercises you repeated over and over when you were warming up or practicing between things, and kept you in good shape.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't have to do that stuff for hours, but if I do it consistently for a little bit every day, then I feel like I'm capable of playing my rep.
Yeah.
So that'd be one thing. Basically always use the metronome, always.
Yeah.
Especially like some of the pieces that I play with the trio, when we do Carnival by Patrick Roux, I have to have the metronome on because it's like syncopating 16th notes.
Yeah.
And for a guy from Canada, that's pretty hard to do.
Right. Yes.
Or like playing like a triplet over 2 beats while there's like other 16th note rhythms happening at the same time and stuff.
Yeah, there's a bit of that in the, not as much, but a bit of that in the piece we played, the Patrick's piece that we played. Yeah, just some.
Yes, yeah, things like that. I use my phone a lot as a recording device for video, so either to test run a section, or to like train it on one hand just to see what's going on as I play a specific passage. Like, am I reflexively like throwing out a finger, or like twisting the hand, or doing something that would
not make sense?
not make sense, or cause me to screw up, especially for the right hand. Like for extended passages that are really demanding, I like to record just that hand playing it to see like where exactly is it messing up.
Yeah, I did this in the Assad suite I played in Ottawa for that concert there that you were at. Like, there's some passages in that middle movement, Coco, that like if you don't, I actually took tab paper and wrote out the right hand on tab paper, so that, because it was very complex, so that I was sure that I was doing the right sequence, and then when you do it slowly or by itself, you really do see, like you're right, you see like the parts where you're doing something awkward.
Yeah, and that, you bring up a good point. Taking the hard parts and doing them just right hand.
Yeah.
Like in my Chopin, I have this bit where you have to do this octave thing, and I would just practice a whole bunch just to get the right hand
sorted out
with what it's doing. And then with the slow practice for the right hand, I practice like completely emptying the hand in between every single note, even if I'm doing like a scale. Instead of thinking of like alternation, it's like you play one note and then you relax it, and then you do the next note and relax it. And I find that doing that consistently has led to much more, feeling much more comfortable on stage, and feeling like even if my hands are cold, because they normally are, that I can still execute
what you need
passages.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So those are Uncle Nathan's tips.
Uncle Nathan's tips on the Messy Desk concert series.
Yeah.
Cool.
I haven't showed my Messy Desk yet.
Oh yeah, you should show the Messy Desk. This is where the name came from, actually.
It's quite messy. Don't judge me, but I don't have students in here right now, so it's
Daniel is crucifying you in the chat right now.
Is he saying mid-range of motion?
Probably. Can you move a bit left? There we go. Better. Okay. So, another question about practice. How do you manage the demands of being a professional and still playing guitar, finding time to play guitar? Because this is something that many of us who are paying our bills through music struggle with, you know?
Sorry, what's the question?
How do you manage the demands of being a professional musician while still practicing and playing enough? Or playing as much as you have to maintain stuff?
I feel like I go through waves with this dilemma. I feel like right now I'm not doing a very good job of it, but when I was writing your sonata, I was doing a very good job of it.
Because you had to write a giant sonata and also practice?
I had to write a giant sonata and I had a deadline. But essentially what I did was I planned out every single minute of my day from when I woke up until when I went to sleep, and then just followed it religiously. And that worked for about 3 months.
Until the sonata was done, yeah.
Until the sonata was done. I don't know if it's sustainable or not.
Yeah.
But I was essentially like waking up, working on your sonata, and then practicing, and then like lunch, walk the dog, practice more, teach, and then like unwind and then go to sleep.
Yeah.
And that worked pretty well, and I had quite a few performances in that time, and I was able to keep up with it. But then there are other things too. I mean, there's like arranging for the group, there's the editing, there's the PR stuff.
Yeah,
it's endless.
Nobody realizes, I think, or nobody except other people doing it realize how much that takes. Like maintaining your Instagram, it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and like contacting venues, like
yeah.
when we were getting the stuff for our tour.
I mean, responding to students, seriously, this coronavirus thing, at least we still can teach. Like, I have a lot of students online. Not all of my students, but, a lot. And it's, not all of my students kept on going with the online lessons. I mean, of course, we always lose some when this kind of thing happens, right? Which is what's hard for freelancer musicians in this time. But, thankfully, many of them continued online. And, it's a lot of work, like doing the lesson prep and everything and responding to people. And I just don't think people think about the admin work, not just with students. I don't mean that it's like a burden, but just that the work that you do communicating with people, with gigs and with,
The grind is endless. I mean, you probably work more than 60 hours a week, but you get compensated for about
30.
15 to 20 of them.
Yeah.
So,
plus on top of that, recording videos, putting out material, all that stuff.
Yeah. So I think, I asked Emma Rush at one point, I was like, Emma, you seem like you have everything together. How do you do it? And she said something like what someone else told her, which was if you have your coffee in the morning and your whiskey in the evening, like as long as you get those done, and then everything else falls into place. And then I was
Right.
like, well, what if you do it backwards?
What if you do it backwards? Sometimes as a musician, it does get done backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think more than anything, it's you just have to sort of be kind to yourself and understand that different periods, like different months, are going to require different things of you. And if you measure your productivity or your like success in self-management by what the metrics were last month, you're probably not going to feel very good about yourself. But if you measure it by what the demands are where you are right now, then you'll probably realize that you're doing fine.
Yeah.
And it's tough, like, because I've been spending a lot of time editing, and I have a few other
Editing videos or editing what?
Editing scores, and
Oh,
like I
right.
have these arrangement commissions that I'm doing for an organization in town and stuff, and I've been putting more time into those because one, like the arrangements are actually going to pay me money right now, and once again, it's like I'm locked inside, so I might as well
Do them.
work on these scores.
And you want to
So
get the
if you
sonata
get to the end of the
published so
day-
that everyone can buy the sonata.
Yes. But you get to the end of the day of like messing around on finale all day, and you feel like, man, I haven't done anything with my day. And then, no, I was literally working all day.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how we're so good at like twisting whatever we do into being negative.
Yep.
I think you just need to be like, well, today I accomplished this. Tomorrow I'll do this. But that's what I think about it.
Yeah, it's rough. But I mean, you're right. You have to have small, realistic goals and realize that everything you get done is productive. So just try to manage it. I mean, try to juggle all the balls.
Yeah, and just accept that you'll always drop a few.
Yeah.
If you don't drop the same one every single time.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Just give your best in every moment. So, why do you want to keep playing guitar? Deep question. I know.
Because I think I'm getting better.
Yeah. One day I'll figure out how this instrument works.
I literally had a conversation with myself last year where I was like, I'll probably be pretty good once I'm 40.
Yeah.
As in just like,
Yeah.
just over the years, like you keep getting better. So,
Yeah.
And then I told that to a friend, and he was like, I'm pretty sure you're already good.
Right. But your own self-perception is very different then.
Yeah. No, I think the working with the trio has been really a big motivator for me. I think in general, I find chamber music more rewarding than solo music.
Yeah.
And seeing the trio be successful and be well received has been a big motivator.
Yeah, I always say this I mean, all of us have like, moments where we feel not motivated and stuff, but my impression is that, and I know from experience, it's so hard to be motivated when you don't have, I don't just want to say deadlines, but also like positive results to see, which is why I think more students maybe should try to find ways to perform, even if it's not doing some big competition or something, right? Like when you have the reception of an audience to look forward to, and that, even if it's a smaller thing, and or if you have a recording to put out and people give you positive feedback, it's just,
Yeah, well, it's like when we played for 20, like that experience.
Yeah, in Madoc, that was
seeing
great.
these people like experience guitar for the first time.
Yeah.
Is like way more rewarding than,
practicing in your room until it's
purely.
perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Or like, I mean, I sort of freely admit that I threw together quite a few of those pieces extremely last minute.
Yeah.
But it was like super rewarding.
Yeah.
To hear those people just react to the pieces, and some of those pieces were pretty out there, but people were quite receptive to them.
They really were. Yeah.
And
I love that couple that came up to us and then we sent them home to listen to Shostakovich on the way home. The string quartets. Well, you're gonna have a weird ride home. Sorry.
But yeah, so I think when you do more of those, and like I did a bunch of stuff for concerts in care last year, which is like you go into senior homes and play. And when you do those, it's definitely like a big motivator, I find.
Yeah.
And like every single one's a positive experience.
Mm-hmm.
But when you, yeah, like you say, when you're at home and you're just sort of like torturing yourself to get it absolutely right, it can drain your enthusiasm quite quickly.
Yeah, for sure. It's not very rewarding.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, practice can be rewarding.
It can be, like, once you finally do it, but it's like you're really delaying the gratification.
Yeah, and then there's no positive feedback from someone else who experiences it, right?
Yeah.
So, ideally, you do both, right?
Yes. Well, yeah, you should be doing both.
Yeah. What musicians do you admire in general?
Well,
doesn't have to be classical musicians; can be any musician.
Okay. I mean, I suppose I'm biased because I studied with him, but Rene has always really impressed me as a musician, and not just because of his playing. I mean, the playing speaks for itself. But when you meet someone who is like a very high level player, and then they're still like humble about it,
mm-hmm.
and you can tell that it's just about the music for them, and it's not about themselves.
Yeah,
that's a really impressive thing, and just to see how generous of a person he is with his students, like
everyone.
lends out guitars all the time to
Yeah.
students, and like gives way more lessons than he's paid for and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like when I went to that Camino Arts program in Spain that he runs,
Mm-hmm.
he was just so like, I mean, very professional, but also just very generous and clearly cared about giving everyone the best experience that he could,
Yeah, exactly.
beyond anything else, and being open and, open person who's willing to really connect with you. And yeah, it's great. I mean, it's not this exactly just someone who wants to just be your friend. It's like someone who actually just wants to help you,
Mm-hmm.
which is really valuable in a teacher and in a professional person too.
Yeah. And then who else is there? I really enjoy Jacob Collier.
Yeah.
He's just like he's just one of those guys you want to tell him to just like F right off because he's too good.
Yeah.
With just the reharmonizations and messing around with intonation within a single piece,
Mm-hmm.
like changing the tuning halfway through the piece and stuff is pretty insane.
Yeah.
And he's definitely one of those people that when you listen to his stuff, you feel like you suck, but not in a bad way. Like you feel like, oh man, there's like so much more I need to be doing and practicing and trying.
Yeah.
And then well, I went and saw James Ennis play like almost all of the Beethoven sonatas in one concert.
Wow.
On violin. So that I'd say that I'm pretty impressed by that too.
Yeah, no kidding. That's crazy. Cool.
Yeah.
On this, I'm also curious to know like what people think about this. What's the what do you think, like what guitarists are pushing the art form forwards? Because I know inherently being a classical instrument, we're a little bit conservative, in general, in terms of like, and things move slower, like progress slower than like in the electric guitar world. Like I was thinking the other day, like I know they're kind of annoying and edgelordy, but a band like Polyphia or like Periphery, those kind of bands in electric guitar and metal and stuff, you can see that they're actually pushing performance practice forwards, aesthetic of sound, composition, like everything is being pushed forwards at a much faster rate than in classical guitar, which is, I think, natural. But who do you think is actually pushing the instrument forwards now? Or what kind of things are happening that are like genuinely progressive within classical guitar? Or it could be not necessarily new repertoire, but like it's doing new things with like, you know, older repertoire or whatever. Like who's moving the instrument in a forwards direction.
Well, I do think that like the completely insane players like Stefan Rack and Yamashita,
right?
Like they're definitely moving things forward on like the technical level.
Yeah.
Like
maybe
you know, there are pieces by Rack that I just simply can't play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there are some, you know, like Rodrigo's pieces. I look at them and I'm like, yeah, I could play that in a year if I had to.
Yeah. A year of like working on it every day.
Yeah, like a year of hard work, but I can look at it and I can see myself playing it. But there, you know, something like the Mussorgsky arrangement or the New World Symphony, where it's like I literally can't see myself playing that, and yet there are people learning them and playing them.
The only Rodrigo piece like that I can think of is, in some ways, the Toccata makes me think that, but still seems within.
Toccata scares me, but I feel like if someone told me that I was going to be executed in a year unless I performed that, I would feel like I had a chance.
Yeah, you're like, well, there's like 80% chance I could live.
Yeah.
Or 70 or something.
But,
yeah.
But if they're like, you have to play the New World Symphony in a year, then, well, just shoot me now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Save me the humiliation.
Yeah.
So that would be in terms of like technique, just in terms of like technical demands.
Yeah.
People like that are
maybe you could
forward.
You could also say like someone like Marco Topci in some ways too is doing that as a younger player.
Yeah, and I think there's like this is natural in any art form, but like the younger generation is just going to pick up on that, and then they're going to push it even more until like we're already seeing these, you know, young prodigies just like technically outpassing everyone else, which I think is great.
Yeah, it's cool.
And then in terms of everything else, so that's like technique. In terms of rep, I can't really speak for most countries because I mostly just know what's going on in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in Canada there's a lot of, at least in the guitar world, like development of the electric acoustic. Is that what it's called?
Electroacoustic, I think, yeah.
Electroacoustic music. A lot of sort of really eking out every sort of timbral nuance the guitar can have.
Yeah.
And exploring the way that it can interact with digital media. And I'm always kind of on the fence about that stuff. Like I played Christina's piece with the jar,
Christina,
which I enjoyed. But I feel like it was also just a very well crafted piece.
Well, that's sorry to interrupt, but that's the thing about Christina's. Like, I listened to a bunch of her other music after you played that piece on YouTube, and like, the amazing thing about her compositions are like they use electroacoustic elements and they use a lot of extended techniques and a lot of that kind of stuff. But it never seems like it's for its own sake, you know. And I know that's kind of subjective, but that's always what I try to like judge that kind of music on. Is like the same thing with Jason's piece, Shadow Prism. It's like it's aleatoric and it's using a lot of extended techniques. Well, mostly just harmonics, but still. But it doesn't feel the piece feels like that serves the structure of the music and the sound world, you know, rather than it just being something that's being done because that's what you do now or whatever. Mm-hmm. So,
but that being said, I also like when Schoenberg developed, you know, the 12-tone technique. For him, that was the logical conclusion of years of development in music.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I see electroacoustic music as the logical next step in composition. I think it's an equally important branch of
Yeah.
many different next steps.
I see it as a branch. I don't see it as a logical next step either.
Yeah. Which, and I don't say that to knock it at all. I just mean that, like, I don't think every single composer should feel like they need to be doing that to be staying up to date. And I really think that in a composition-wise, we've reached a place where composers can feel free to write whatever they want.
Yeah, I think that Jason Noble was talking to me about this when I interviewed him for my research, and he was talking about how important it is to recognize that the plurality of contemporary music, which I think is true. You hear some people say like, "Oh, I don't like contemporary music," but like, what does that even mean? You know, there's so many languages within contemporary music because of the globalized world, because of lots of factors, right? So to say you don't like contemporary music is like saying you don't like food almost, you know, or something. It's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Or even like saying I don't like Indian food. And it's like, well, North Indian, South Indian.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But so that being said, it's also like with our program from our tour. You know, that was all living composers, but no two pieces sounded the same.
Or had the same sound world. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So in terms of, like, I think composers like Bogdanovich are exploring like interesting aspects of guitar with really pushing like polymetric stuff and that piece from the GFA a couple of years ago, Perjan.
Oh yeah, that the one that Sam Hines played a bunch.
Yeah, was it Jeffrey Holmes?
I think it was Jeffrey Holmes. Yeah.
Yeah, which once again was like experimenting with quarter tone bending and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are all interesting, but I also don't know if, and maybe this makes me sound conservative, is like I don't know if I don't think people need to feel like they have to keep expanding. I think if they haven't found sounds that they want yet, they should continue to look, but I think people should be more concerned with just writing the music that's most authentic to them, and not trying to, stay hip with anything.
Well,
that was a big step for me.
Yeah,
as a composer.
I don't think that composers or players should feel like they have to be the one who expands things. Mm-hmm. I just mean, I mean like your sonata is not groundbreaking in those ways. I think you did push. What I appreciated about it is that it's pushing me as a player, but also like just the length and the size of it. Most guitar sonatas are not that long, whereas piano sonatas are, So the fact that you kind of tried to bring the guitar to a larger scale kind of work in that way. There are pieces that do show that, but we have a tendency to have much shorter pieces in general. So
we have a repertoire of encore pieces.
Encore pieces, yeah. Anyhow, so I'm not saying it's because not everyone's going to be being on the progressive edge of something, right? It just, everyone's different. Okay, I don't want to keep you for too long, so let's move on here. Actually, let's go to our lightning round, if that's okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you some, quick rapid fire questions, and you have to try to answer in a short amount of time.
Okay.
So just say the first one that you agree with or comes to your mind, or just like, you can also say neither. Okay, you ready? Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Okay. Restoration or interpretation?
Sorry, what?
Restoration of a score or interpretation based on like your personality?
Interpretation.
Okay. Bream or Segovia?
Bream.
Liszt or Chopin?
Chopin.
Free stroke or rest stroke?
Free.
And for our non-American listeners, that's tirando and apoyando. Okay. Breakfast or dinner?
Dinner.
Okay. Team Edward or Team Jacob?
Pass.
Okay. South Park or The Simpsons?
South Park.
Bogdanovich or Brower?
Ooh.
Don't think too much about it. Brower. Okay.
Brower.
Okay. Lady Gaga or Katy Perry?
Lady Gaga.
Oh, good boy. Okay. Vanilla or chocolate?
Vanilla.
Solo or chamber?
Chamber.
Concert or masterclass?
Concert.
Contemporary or classical romantic? Guitar repertoire.
Contemporary.
Contemporary, okay. I thought so. Campanella or regular scales?
Regular.
Okay. Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Tremolo or scales?
Oof. I suck at both. Scales.
Okay. Yeah, if you had to play one with the gun to your head, I would say tremolo. But Horowitz or Rubinstein?
Ooh, Horowitz.
Okay. Thibaut Garcia or André Divitis?
Thibaut. Sorry, Andre. I still love you, but.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we're not trying to make enemies. Martin Dilla or Zoran Dukic?
Dukic.
Okay. Sony or Nintendo?
Nintendo.
Oh, of course, obviously. And Oblivion or Skyrim?
Oblivion.
Oh, come on.
That hill.
That's fair. Oblivion. You still need to get Elder Scrolls Online.
I know.
Anyhow, okay. Let's go to your last performance. So, what are you going to play for us to end off tonight?
I will be playing nothing, but Virtual Nathan will be performing.
Virtual Nathan will be performing a recording that I made.
Yes. So this piece is by Sean Clark, who is currently living in Ottawa, but I believe he's from Calgary.
Yeah, it's funny, actually. I didn't know that, and then when we did our tour, there were some Calgarian friends of mine who were like, oh, you have one of Sean's pieces on the tour. And I was like, oh. Yeah. Didn't realize he went to Calgary. He was from Calgary.
Yeah. So Sean wrote this piece for me, and it was a collaboration as part of the Class Acts project, which is an initiative from the Canadian Music Centre that takes composers who have never written for guitar and guitarists and pairs them up, and together they collaborate to create new music, and then they're performed in a series of concerts across Canada. So Sean has a sort of really interesting intervallic way of writing, and he was very interested in making a piece that explored sort of harmonies in our sort of steel brise style arpeggios, and moving things very slowly, one note at a time, through these chord progressions. And essentially, we didn't take that many sessions to do the piece. We had one where he told me what he wanted to do, and I was like, okay, well, here's some ways you can do that on guitar. And then he sent me a piece not too long later, and he's like, let me know if this works. And with the exception of a few notes, it was basically perfect.
Yeah, you know what? I interviewed him for my research about how guitarists and composers collaborate, and what he said that was super interesting and useful was that he said he likes to immediately work with the player once or twice to get an idea of exactly if his ideas are possible or will work before he does too much. And I mean, it obviously was effective, like, you know, because he said if he doesn't meet with them, he would just like hamper himself so much because he'd be so worried about writing something impossible.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's the same thing. I think when people talk about writing for guitar, often they're thinking in terms of like, what shouldn't I do?
Right.
But I really wanted to frame it for Sean in terms of like,
what can you do?
What can I do? So, but yeah, so him and Martin, they both, you know, knocked it out in the first try.
Yeah, for sure. That's so actually. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, keep going.
Oh, that's something that Steve said too. Was like, in when I interviewed him, was Steve Cowan, was he said like, I don't want composers to feel hampered by the guitar, but more to see it with possibilities, you know.
Yeah, like inspired more than hampered.
Yeah.
So, I really enjoyed the piece. I did the Ottawa premiere, and then I decided to take it on the road with our tour, and it was well received. We played it in, did we do like 7 concerts?
I think it was 7 or 8, something. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just a really, really interesting piece. It's, you know, it's sort of medium length for a guitar piece, but I've never found that it feels that long.
Mm-hmm.
And often with more modern sounding pieces, you're always worried like, oh, you know, this is like a 7-minute modern piece, and or is the audience not going to like it? And never had that problem. It's very episodic.
Yeah.
Things come back, so it's not just like once you hear something that's gone forever, it's like everything is cyclic in the piece, and it really holds itself together well. And yeah, I think he just really took advantage of what makes the guitar, or what works well on the guitar with these arpeggios. So it's, yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know what else there is to say.
Cool. Let's play it. And this is recorded at the CMC, so shout out to the CMC,
Yes.
Canadian Music Centre, for all their support of new guitar music. And yes, okay, I'm gonna just put my video away. Window capture should now be 1 second. You just gotta get the right window here. If it's gonna let me. Oh, here we go. All right. Let's watch this thing. Nice.
Good piece.
Yeah. For sure.
The way that Sean treats rhythm is really interesting. When you first look at the score, you're sort of like, what the hell is he thinking? There's like quintuplets all over the place and stuff. But then after I talked to him, and he's like, oh, it's essentially he's like mapping out how he wants you to do the rubato.
Sorry. It's playing your Star Wars
like
video.
Star Wars.
It's your Star Wars arrangement. Sorry. Left on autoplay.
But yeah, so he sort of maps out how he wants you to rubato different parts.
Okay.
Which I'd never seen a composer do before. Instead of just writing like writ here or whatever, it's like, I want you to writ so that this is sort of a quintuplet type thing.
Wow.
Yeah. Which,
cool.
Yeah. Made me feel much better when he told me that. Okay, good. That's great.
You don't have to strictly play these quintuplets.
I don't have to be a subdividing legend.
Yeah, if you want to be a subdividing legend, you just play some Bogdanovich.
There we go.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks so much, Nathan, for joining me. This has been
thanks
awesome.
for setting this up.
Yeah, I'll keep improving and learning. Anything you want to say to people? Anything you want to plug? Your website, nathanbredeson.ca.
Yeah, and Ottawa Guitar Trio, search it on YouTube.
Yep.
Hopefully, when we're allowed to be in the same room again, we will do a trio version.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, once you're out of the isolation.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're isolated because potentially. Yeah. Anyhow, fun times.
I might have the T virus.
Yes. Okay. All right. On that note, thanks so much, Nathan.
All right.
I'm gonna hit stop on the stream. Thanks everyone for watching. Please follow Nathan. Check out what he's doing. He's awesome. And keep an eye out for more of these. I'm gonna keep inviting guests on and trying to still give people a chance to share their music in this time. So keep tuning in on Facebook and YouTube.